If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell icon to get the latest updates.
Okay, so yesterday we discussed about the introduction to IBP. So before we start off with the today's session, I just wanted to check with you all whether there are any questions or any doubts or anything that we need to touch upon again from yesterday's session.
No questions from me at this time.
None from me either. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So we'll start off with today's session, continuing the same module that we stopped yesterday. So this is again still a part of introduction to IBP. So basically, there in a lot of the organizations, there are a lot of processes which are very much common, which we call as a standard process. And there are a lot of processes which are unique for some of the organizations. So IBP really has a lot of flexibility in the solutions, and even the flexibility in the fundamental of planning process. So we'll just touch upon some of these processes to understand, how IBP can be used to determine the better solutions for this process. So talking about first the unique planning requirements. Okay, so now these unique planning requirements are basically depending upon each organization. So some of the organizations are product driven organization, and their core strength is their product, the quality of the products. Vis-a-vis some other organizations would have, their core strength as their service level. So depending upon, the process requirements, the IBP structure and the internal processes for the organizations are designed in such a way that, they can be better utilized and better formed in within the umbrella of IBP. So most of the organizations have many processes which are standard, which are used by many other organizations, like, for example, a forecasting process. Universally, there are a lot of organizations which use, a moving average as one of the common process to identify their future forecast. So basically, they will consider last 3 to 6 months of horizon. They will check the sales pattern for last 3 to 6 months, and based on the historical sales, they will define the future forecast. Similarly, for some other organizations, they may have some different process. So this is called as a customs versus standard process, as well as customs versus standard products. The other planning process which is unique to the organization is MTO or MTS, which is basically made to stock or made to order. So are you aware about this terminology of MTO and MTS?
Yes.
Okay. So may I ask what terminology or what process you follow for your regular products? Is it MTO or MTS? Yeah.
Hey, could you go over the MTO MTS just again for me? I know I'm not fully aware of both the processes. That's all.
Okay.
I'm a bit deeper in the reel as well, so I could use extra information. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so MTO is basically made to order, and MTS is made to stocks. Similarly, there are also MTE, that is made to engineer. So basically, most of the organizations predominantly follow either the MTO or MTS process. So what is MTO? As I said, is made to order. That means, the products are made, or the products are produced, or they are assembled only when we receive the customer order, because these products are quite unique in nature. Okay, and they are not the standard products. So these products may be designed specifically for specific requirement for specific customers. Okay, so just to give you an example of in general, let's take an example of a sandwiches. Okay, so we go to the bakery or we go to the restaurant and we order the sandwich. So now the owner of the restaurant or the shopkeeper of that particular shop would always have some of the sandwiches which are already produced and kept it in the refrigerator in the storage area. So these products which are kept in the storage area, which are already produced, are basically made to stocks because they are already produced with a certain amount of process, with a certain amount of bill of material, and they are ready awaiting for the customer order. Okay, this is MTS. And for the similar process, if you order a specific sandwich, like for example, you say, I don't want a standard sandwich, I want a special sandwich with extra cheese and extra vegetables. So these are your special requirements. So these kind of sandwiches are not produced in ahead of time. So they are only produced upon receiving the customer order. So in a nutshell, MTO are the products which are basically designed as per the customer requirements. They are specific requirements of the customers based on which these products are produced. So there may be very less number of customers buying these products. So the producer will not produce these products in advance and keep them in stock because he knows that these are only for the specific customer. So he will only produce it when he receives the order from the customer. So the other side of this particular process is normally the inventory, the finished goods inventory or the final products inventory for these products is at a low level. It's extremely low because these products are not standard products. It cannot be sold to all the customers. Okay, but at the same time, they have to have a lot of raw material suppliers in the value chain, who can supply the raw materials. So because if you have less number of suppliers who's supplying the raw materials to you, and if you receive the order, and if, for example, you only have one supplier who gives you the raw material, and this supplier is not able to give you raw material on time, then eventually you will end up, quoting a very, very high lead time for this product, and you may lose out on the order. So that's the reason you will have to keep multiple supply sources for the MTO product because these are non-standard. These are specifically designed products. Whereas on the other side, for the MTS product, these are very, very standard products. These are bought eventually, I would say, in the best case scenario, every month by specific customers. And this one product is bought by several different customers. So the supplier or the producer knows that he's got, if he does not get the demand from customer A, he will get the demand from customer B. So the best example, excuse me. So the best example for the MTS product is the grocery shop, where you get rice, you get wheat. Like the grocery shop keeper always keeps huge amount of stocks because he knows that these products can be sold to many customers, and even if it's in the inventory, it is not going to go in waste. So this is the different strategies that each and every organization is working upon. So at any point in time for any organization or any manufacturing organization, they may use both the strategies. For example, some of their products which are unique in nature, they will have the MTO strategy. Okay, they will produce it only upon receipt of the customer order. And for other products which are very standard in nature, they will have the MTS strategy. Okay, so this is how the MTO versus MTS strategies are adopted by the organization. So, Vaibhav, are you with me? Or do you have any doubts?
No, no, thank you so much. I just didn't, sorry about that. I just didn't know that that's an abbreviation of made to order and made to stock. But no, thank you so much for that. That does clarify my doubt.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So based on the MTO or MTS strategy, the master data in SAP as well as in IBP is defined in such a way that the MRP takes care of the replenishment cycles, based on the master data that we set. So we'll have a different set of master data settings for MTO, whereas a different set of master data setting for the MTS. Okay. So Victoria, are you aligned on this, or do you have any doubts about MTO or MTS?
No questions.
Okay. Then another point is basically the dynamics of supply chain. Like any organization would have a lot of different dynamics related to the process in within the supply chain. Like for example, in the demand planning process, they may have different dynamics, different issues, and they may have different solutions to those issues. So these are not standard issues. This kind of dynamics or the processes varies from one organization to the other organization. So considering all these unique requirements for the organizations, IBP has developed a very flexible solution, because flexibility is one of the key parameter for the supply chain process, because every time we are getting some of the issues, and we are most of the time in the reactive mode. So the processes are designed in such a way that when there is an issue or when there is an urgent requirement, our flexibility is tested, and the faster solution we provide to this problem, the better the chances of winning the business. So some of the solutions flexibility that is offered within IBP are basically the configurable data models and attributes, then key figures and calculation logic. There are a lot of different algorithms, as I mentioned to you yesterday. So these algorithms basically define, what sort of data processing or data analytics needs to be done to provide the meaningful solution to the problem. So, for example, if a product A, which is having an MTS strategy, which is made to stock, then a different forecasting algorithm will be used for that, because MTS is a standard product bought by several customers. So all the customers' demands are collated together, and the system may use exponential smoothing, forecasting technique. That means basically they will take the horizon of last 6 months data, and they will check the trend. They will check the forecasting variability, as well as the standard deviation, and they will identify the outliers. For example, outliers are basically this peak in the supplies or the peak in the demand for the previous horizon. So just to give you an example, in the last 6 months, if a product is sold 1,000 or 10,000 pounds every month, and in one particular month it was sold, let's say 1,000 pounds, then this is called as an outlier, because this is not in the trend. There is something specifically went wrong. Okay, so this is called an outlier. Similarly, in some other month, instead of an average of 10,000 pounds, if we sold, let's say 20,000 pounds, okay, that is also called an outlier. So what system will do is they will eliminate these outliers, they will exclude these outliers, and then they will create the future forecast or the statistical forecast based on the standard forecast. and that would be fairly accurate than considering, the outliers. So this is the kind of solution flexibility which is offered in the IBP process. So any doubts or questions?
No.
Okay.
All good.
Okay. So next one is now we spoke about the unique planning process. Now we go on to the universal planning process. So basically, universal planning process is a very standard process which is used by most of the organization. There are quite standard practices which are followed. For example, single set of numbers, or the integrated set of numbers, the balance demand or supply and finance, scheduled operations to meet customer promises. Okay, so these are a very standard normal KPIs which are part of most of the organizations, and these are the processes which are quite universal across the globe. So to this process, SAP IBP provides a fundamental planning functionality, okay, which is real-time planning platform. And then as we get into the system, you will understand how the different solutions are provided within the IBP system for the different set of issues, or for the different set of numbers based on the behavior of the forecast. So at the end, you get these solutions which will fit into your planning system and which will give you some meaningful output. So all these simulations basically is taken care by the IBP tool within SAP. And at the end of this process, you get a meaningful output which you can use for your supply planning process, your inventory management, and your financial forecasting process. Okay, shall we move on, or any specific questions?
All good on my end.
Okay. So as I mentioned, supply chain has the unique as well as the standard processes. So this slide mainly talks about the same points that we discussed in the previous slide. So now quickly I'll get into the supply chain interface as to how the supply chain or the IBP communicates with the various tools, the various platforms, and what exactly is happening within the tool, within the IBP tool, and what are the results. Okay, so in the right side of the you see various ERP systems. For what is ERP? ERP is basically the enterprise resource planning. Okay, it is nothing but a type of an MRP. So MRP, so there are a lot of different MRPs available in the market, which will be designed, which are designed as per the customer requirements, okay, based on the unique requirements or the standard processes of the organizations. So in total, all the MRPs are called as ERP, that is Enterprise Resource Planning. So MRP, what MRP does basically is it considers all the factors. For example, just to give you an example, if for a product A, there is a forecast of, let's say, 100 pounds, okay, and you have a stock of, let's say, 20 pounds in your warehouse, okay. So system will consider input as customer order or forecast of 100 pounds. System will consider the stocks at various warehouse locations, which is totaling up to 20 pounds. Okay. And so in a simple term, it is 100 minus 20. So your net requirement is 80 pounds. So ERP or MRP will generate the purchase requisitions of 80 pounds, and then the purchasing or the planner will place the order to procure or produce 80 pounds. So this I would like to ask a few questions related to the planning process, as to how the planning process works in your organization. Weber, would you like to go first?
Yeah, thanks. So in Canada, and for Red Path, the process I'm currently following is week 1, I do a demand review. Week 2, I develop a consensus with the sales people, the sales organization on are you aligned with the forecasts I'm keying in before locking in the forecast for the next few months. Once that's done, I change my planning horizon from a 13-week. So a 13-week is basically the planning window I plan in for the short term, and for the long term, it's 18 months. So once the 13-week is looked after, the forecast is locked, then I work on the supply plans. And for the supply side, I'm working on I'm mainly focused on the plant which does a lot of co-packaging. So in Belleville, we do a lot of co-packaging. So there's a lot of different ingredients and different vendors sending ingredients. So it's all blends which we work on. So once the supply plan is created after the forecast is finalized, the planning manager kind of goes through the plans and suggests any changes. Then once the plan is finalized, I do a mini sort of like a SNOP round with the team on ground team with operations and sales and distribution to review the plan that, hey, this is the plan for the next 13 week. And I then take feedback from distribution, sales, and ops. They might have call outs on, we don't have this ingredient, or ops might have a call out on we don't have the labor. Distribution might call out we don't have the space. So I take all that feedback and then plug that into the plan again and restart again the next week. That's what I do.
Okay, that's perfect. So when you finalize the consensus forecast, so first there is an unconstrained forecast from the sales team, right? And then you discuss with them and you finalize the consensus forecast, which is agreed by you as well as the sales team, right?
That is correct. Theoretically, that is correct. But it depends on the customer. So, for example, one of the big customers we have who produces chocolates, they would send us a detailed forecast monthly. And I'll have to update that. But some customers, they do only send forecasts like quarterly or maybe once in 6 months, and then I and the salesperson develop a consensus based on what the trend has been. So we kind of provide the feedback back to the customer saying, hey, by the way, this is the trend.
Okay. So what are the general lead time for your products that you offer to the customer?
By lead time, do you mean from the warehouse to shipping to their DC, or the lead time of their demand and when do we produce?
The lead time of their demand, that is customer demand, vis-a-vis you supply to them, vis-a-vis they receive the material.
Gotcha. So it's a mix of two strategies. For some customers, it's MTO, and for some customers, it's MTS.
Okay. Perfect. So all of these activity, whatever you mentioned, is it happening in the IBP or it's happening in the Excel spreadsheet? Or which tool you use?
So for forecasting, obviously, it goes into the IBP templates. The supply plan is happening on an Excel, but there are different IBP templates which we've put together to create that supply plan. So yeah, IBP is where everything happens.
Okay. Okay. What about you, Victoria? Is it the same process for you as well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Understood. Okay. So we'll move on. So you understood how the ERP operates, right? It's exactly it's nothing but an MRP. Okay. And it generates the demand taking into consideration all the parameters. Okay. It will consider forecast or the customer sales order as the input. It will consider the stocks in the warehouse. It will consider the stocks in the pipeline, that is goods in transit, okay, coming from the various plants, okay, to the various plants within the organization, that is called as goods in transit. Then it will consider if there is any purchase order sent to the vendor, okay, for the same product. Okay, if this product is bought from the third party vendor, if this product is manufactured within the same organization, then it will consider what are the production plans released to the manufacturing team. And at the end of this, it will give you what is the net requirement. Okay, so MRP basically does a job of calculating the net requirement, considering all the inventories and goods in transit, goods in pipeline, and stuff like that. So MRP is giving the inputs to IBP. Similarly, there are a lot of other tools or interfaces which communicates with the IBP in terms of providing the inputs or in terms of receiving the inputs from IBP. Similarly, we have other system which we call as CRM, that is customer relationship management. So CRM is basically a customer service tool which is used by the customer service organization. So this tool basically does the order management or order processing in SAP, or it can be any other platform. It may not be only SAP, but it can be any other platform. So CRM is customer relationship management. It takes care of managing the customers and customer requirement in the tool. So next one is BPC. Do you know what is BPC?
No.
Okay, BPC is nothing but a business planning tool, which is based on which is based on the warehouse management system. So this also is one of the planning tool available to take care of the planning processes. But nowadays, since most of the organizations are switching over to SAP, most of them are using SAP versus the other tools. Then the next one is APO. So do you know what is APO?
No, I don't know.
Okay. So APO is basically an advanced version of SAP production planning system. APO is advanced planning and optimizer or optimization. So if you are using SAP, normally you would have used production planning PP module or MM module, which is materials management module. But APO is most advanced module in SAP. So APO has a functionality of creating the MRP on a daily basis, and you can design your MRP output in the customized way. You can design your MRP the way you want. The kind of flexibility that you get in the Excel spreadsheet, the similar kind of flexibility you also get in the APO, SAP APO tool. So there you can have a horizontal plan. When I say horizontal plan, on the top of each column, you will have the requirements by week, and at the in the rows, you will have the one line as the customer forecast, second line as the customer actual orders, third line as the stocks, fourth line as the open purchase orders, and fifth line as the requirement. So similarly, the way normal planner does planning in the Excel file, which is predominantly a manual activity, SAP APO does in the same format with all the automated functionality. So it will consider everything which is set in the master data, and it will generate a meaningful requirement planning. So SAP APO is one of the widely used, and it's the most advanced tool available in the market for planning. Okay, like we have a DP, which is demand planning tool, which is the advance in SAP. Similarly, APO is also having the same platform as the DP. The next one is BW, which is known as Business Warehouse. So this is basically a tool used for the warehouse management system, WMS. So in the warehouse management system, all the warehouse related activities are carried out. They use the FIFO, that is first in, first out, or LIFO, that is last in, first out, based on the strategies. You know what is FIFO and LIFO, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So these are the various tools, and in the diagram, they only talk about very few tools, wherein there may be many other tools or systems which can directly, communicate with the APO. There can be Excel file which has the functionality of uploading it into the IBP. So on the left hand side, you see the various tools or the MRP systems which communicates the data with the IBP. And in the center, the box with light gray color, you see this is the IBP system. So what basically it does is it takes the input from the various systems in the left hand side, then it processes the data in the central part, which is highlighted with the gray color, and on the right hand side it gives you the meaningful output. Okay, so what SAP does is basically do the data crunching and data analysis. So SDI is smart data integration, and it does the data integration and simulation. It uses various planning models. It uses the attributes. It uses various key figures. Scenario building also takes place. Simulation also takes place based on the parameters which is fed in the master data. It does predictive analytics. How the future can be predicted in the best way. So it gives you that kind of an input, and also it talks about the heuristic process. Okay, you know what is the meaning of heuristic?
No, I only heard the word in that because we run the operator.
Okay,
I don't know the
so
exact.
okay, so the definition of heuristic is basically it's the shortcut used to to reach to the decisions. Okay, so it's a meaningful shortcut. So what heuristic means in IBP is, whatever is the issue, system will identify the issue and fix it very quickly to give you the desired output. Okay. So there is a terminology which is called as a heuristic run. Okay. So what it does is, for example, you have set all the data in SAP, and your forecast for product A, let's say, is 100 pounds is your forecast. So today, that is on 1st of August, you have MRP, which is ran on at the background, and it has generated the requirement considering the forecast of 100 pounds. Okay, and everything is in place. You have placed the purchase order to your vendor for procuring the raw material. You have informed your manufacturing team that this is the demand that we need to produce. Okay, and things are pretty much on track. On 2nd of August, again the forecast of 100 pounds, you receive the customer order for 500 pounds, okay, which is almost 5 times more than what you would have expected. So now what system does is, as soon as the order is punched by the customer service team in the system, it triggers the heuristic run. Okay, so in the background, there is a heuristic run, and system will automatically calculate the requirements. Okay, so instead of 100 pounds, it will consider now the customer order which is come as for 500 pounds. So it will immediately do the MRP run in the background and create the requirements of 500 pounds, because the objective of all the organization is to fulfill customer demand as soon as possible, so that customer is satisfied, as well as the organization is getting the kind of revenue and profitability as per their target. So in this case, system will generate the requirement for 500 pounds, and it will also show throw the alert to the planner. So when the next morning, when the planner logs into the system, he will get the alert that we have received the order for 500 pounds, and the requirements are now required to be changed from 100 pounds to 500 pounds. And in the advanced version, in some cases, if you have designed your EDI or IBP with the email ID of your vendor, it will even automatically send the email to the vendor informing that the requirement is increased. So this is how system is responsive, and it reacts to any problem which comes in the day-to-day life. So this is the main functionality of heuristic run, and this is what I explained was a short-term issue, wherein system also does the entire planning for the horizon that is defined in the system. It may be 24 months, or it may be 60 months or 5 years, whatever is defined in the system. So system will consider the entire portfolio or entire span of the period which is defined, and it will generate the requirements. Are you with me? Any questions?
All good.
All good.
Okay, so as I mentioned, there are also quite a good amount of alerts which are designed in IBP. So at any point in time, planner does not need to go back and check each and every product, identify the actions for him. He can just go and check the alerts. So those products which are not behaving in the normal way, or there is some action required, system will automatically generate alerts for the planner to take some actions. And everyday planner just needs to identify these alerts and fulfill the actions, and then the alert gets disabled. So next is basically SAP Jam system. So have you ever heard the word of SAP Jam, JAM?
I have not. For just going back to alerts,
Yeah.
are we going to cover setting up alerts in IBP, or this is purely just SAP for SAP?
This is based on your organizational requirement. If you know what sort of alerts we need to set, yes, then we can help you in setting the alerts. But basically, what are the different sets of alerts that are required to be identified? So you will have to define those. And if you have some idea about them, then we can work around it.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so SAP Jam is an extremely advanced version now. It basically, collaborates with the social networking sites. So it can also take based on the of course, based on the organization's requirement. It can also communicate with the social networking sites like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, so on and so forth. And it can, take the inputs from these social networking sites. So this is also an advanced version of SAP functionality, which is available in the market. So for the industries like, the media or any other industries which are into the social networking, they can activate this functionality, and they can communicate whatever they want to communicate with the social media. So at the in the right hand side, after the processing of the meaningful information, IBP gives you the data which you can use to plan better, which you can use to improve. So it can give you the output in the simple Excel format, okay, using the graphical representation, or even, with the data sets. So it can generate the plan in Excel, which is extremely user friendly. You can take out the dump, download it in the Excel, and use it. You can communicate that to your manufacturing team, your supplier, whoever you want, or you can create the reports in the graphical presentation using IBP. Web Analyze is also a tool which create the web-based reports. Okay, these reports are basically created in the background. You just need to create this report once. So, and you have to define the iBot in the tool, and these basically iBots will run based on the frequency that is defined in the tool. And if you want the reports to be popped up or sent to your email every morning at a specific time which is defined in the tool, you will get automatic email from the tool with the data. So this is very frequently used by most of the organizations for the MIS reporting, and they define the distribution teams wherein all the reports are automatically emailed on their email ID. And now the most advanced version that we get is basically the mobile based reports. So you can also access this report on your mobile phones or on your iPad or any other devices, which has the functionality of accessing the report. So this is basically, the how the IBP communicates or collaborates with the different tools within the organization, and it helps you to plan your process in better way. At the same time, it also helps the management teams, to identify how the organization is progressing. So the last but not the least, there are various stakeholders which are participating in the IBP process, as I mentioned yesterday, like sales and marketing team, demand planning team, then finance team, supply chain team, of course, are at the center of the IBP, and the top management and the executives of the organization. So this is how IBP works in the system. So any specific questions or anything you want me to repeat again?
Nope, all good.
Okay. Any doubts, Victoria? Victoria, are you there? Okay, so I hope she's.
Yeah, I think it's a mic issue. I can see she went off mute, but it's a headset issue. Probably.
Okay, so we continue. Okay, the levels on which the IBP works is basically the operational level, tactical level, and strategic level. So operational level is basically the operations team involved in the actual execution of the manufacturing, the products manufacturing, the operators. These are called the operational level. Their focus is on the responsiveness, one-to-one collaboration, and quick decision handling. So these are the people who are working on the ground level, who are actually working in the tool, doing the daily stuff in the tool. So these are the operational level team. At little higher level, we have a tactical level team, which basically focuses on a high level requirement, that is to check whether the actuals are as per the plan, or there is any deviation, or they monitor the KPIs to ensure that all the KPIs are met at the high level. So they also have a collaboration with the executive review. So they do they keep on reviewing the KPIs at a regular interval and ensure that the KPIs are met. If there are any issues with the KPI, or if there are any deviations with respect to plan versus actual, so tactical level team is supposed to communicate or collaborate with the operational level team and ensure that the problems are fixed. If the problems are not fixed and it requires a certain level of escalation, then tactical level team is also supposed to escalate the issues to the strategic team that is a level above them. Now, strategic level team talks about a very high level view. It's basically they talk about the strategy making. They talk about defining the strategy. Maybe it is a made to order or made to stock, or any other marketing strategy or sales strategy or supply chain strategy. So they are working in the cross organizational collaboration, and it is at the executive level, that is at the middle management and at the top management. So all in all these operational level, tactical level, and strategic level team are internally collaborating with each other to ensure that the things are on track. We move on to the next one. Okay, so I think we have seen this diagram even before. So this is the same diagram of IBP, wherein you see the IBP demand, IBP inventory, IBP supply, and the integrated response, that is managing, or checking the demand versus supply gap. Then strategic and tactical decision process, and end-to-end visibility, which is part of the supply chain control tower. So next slides are basically the common user interface. As I have been explaining that IBP is providing quite a good user interface, which are extremely user friendly, like Excel spreadsheet, then web-based user reports, and Fiori apps. SAP Jam, as I mentioned, it communicates with the social networking sites. So these can also be used for your day-to-day operations and communications, and MIS reporting to the organization. Any specific questions, Vaibhav or Victoria?
No questions.
Okay. Okay. So what are the key features of IBP? It is giving basically end-to-end supply chain visibility. So visibility is an important parameter. Like at every interval, every stage, it will give you a visibility of what's happening. So where are we with respect to the forecast versus actuals? Where are we with respect to the demand versus supply? And where are we with respect to the production plan versus the actuals, or the schedule adherence? So at the same time, it also gives you other KPIs visibility. For example, OTIF. Do you know what is OTIF? OTIF.
Yeah. Is it on time in full?
Yeah, absolutely correct. It's on time in full. So this is basically the delivery KPI parameters. Okay. So you when you receive the order from the customer, you give them the delivery commitment, and if you fulfill the delivery commitment on time and in full quantity, then you mark your OTIF as met, 100% achieved. If you do not either ship it on time, or even if you ship the partial quantity, then it is considered as missed. So IBP provides you the end-to-end supply chain visibility. It gives you unified, integrated, and cross-departmental planning approach. So as I said yesterday, it not only talks about the integrated processes, but it talks about the cross-departmental integration, because every single department is linked to other departments. So is, for example, for demand planning, their customer is internal customer is the sales team, as well as their supplier, internal supplier is the supply planning team. So similarly, a supply planning team would have internal customer as demand planning team and sales team. So IBP basically does a communication or collaboration within the stakeholders in the entire value chain of the organization. Um, and it involves almost all the departmental stakeholders, like right from product management group, marketing group, supply chain group. Within supply chain, you have demand planning group, you have supply planning group, you have customer service group, you have warehouse management group, and also you also have the finance team. So everybody is involved in the process, and everybody is updated with the single operating plan. It is extremely simple and easy to use user interface. That's the key strength of IBP. That's the reason key success story of IBP is its user interface. because it provides most of the data output in the Excel spreadsheet that is widely used by the organization. I think most of the planners or most of the planning team professionals, they are extremely comfortable with the Excel spreadsheet, and they are widely using, the Excel spreadsheet in day-to-day operations. So they are extremely comfortable in adopting IBP because of its user interface. So advanced demand sensing, as I said, it has got algorithms. So if the demand sensing is quite efficient with respect to the statistical forecast generation, with respect to the uh, prediction of the future forecast. Uh, and last but not the least, all the collaborations and Microsoft Excel-based planning is extremely useful for most of the organizations. We move on to the next slide. So applications used in IBP, as we discussed, is integrated business planning for sales and operations, integrated business planning for demand, for supply, for response, for inventory, and supply chain control tower. So this is basically these are the applications used within IBP, which is also part of the diagram. I think this we have already gone through in detail, so I won't be going upon it again unless you want me to run through this again.
No, I'm good. Hey, just a quick question. This session, would we be using IBP test system? I just don't have my system access yet.
Okay, so since Shana is also not there, so I think we can start either from the next session or after that. So Victoria, do you have your access ready?
I do.
Okay. So did you get a chance to check yesterday using the lab documents? Did you buy those?
Yes, I looked over the first lab and looked at that.
And was it working fine?
Yes, I had no issues. I've used the test system and the web access previously.
Okay. I think I also have some issues with the access, which I am currently in the process of fixing up. So we'll see how it works. Either we start from tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So you both are available tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we move on. What it does basically is the sales and operations plan. It provides a plan to maximize the business output, because that's the key requirement for all the organization is to grow. So all the organizations has a very, very strict target of growth, and they are always looking at the organic as well as inorganic growth, and IBP helps them, to improve the results, improve the visibility, and improve the internal planning systems to grow the business. With respect to the demand, of course, this is extremely important parameter. It gives the transparency in the forecast at various levels of the planning, including, the temporary fluctuations. So IBP basically, as it provides a flexible solution, and as I explained to you, the example of, the forecast being for 100 pounds and the actual order received for 500 pounds, how flexible IBP is to incorporate, the changes and push the requirements to the next level. So this is the key parameter for IBP is the response time and flexibility of the tool. The next one is inventory is extremely important because every time there is change in the demand, it is practically not possible for planner or the inventory planner to review each and every product or each and every product line and identify what's going wrong. But IBP in the background run all this simulation and it identifies the requirements or the issues and it pops up the alerts for the planner. So alert mechanism is one of the important feature, if this functionality is triggered for the organization, it is giving a huge amount of benefits, and the controls on all the processes is extremely good. The next one is response and supply. It enables to react to occurring changes. So as I mentioned, the flexibility and response time. So this parameter is taken care and it's always identifying the gap between demand and supply. And it also checks the rough cut capacity planning, that is RCCP. So at any point in time, if the demand is higher than the supply, IBP checks the capacity, the installed capacity of the manufacturing sites, and then it gives you the information whether the installed capacity is enough to cater to the demand or it is falling short of some resources. And this would lead to any capex investment, the capital expenditure investment decisions, and it will push the decisions to the top management team. So top management team at the control tower group or control tower ladder in the IBP diagram, they are always looking out for this kind of information, to take the strategic decisions with respect to the investment within the capacity or investment in enhancing the capacity of the organization. So that's the point. That's the activity which is done by the supply chain control tower. So as I mentioned, the two key user interfaces provided for the IBP are basically the Excel add-in as well as web interface that uses Fiori functionality. So in future sessions, we'll be going through these user interfaces and checking as to how it actually works. And there, I think you will get a lot of insights about these functionalities and how these functionalities are helping the day-to-day life of supply chain organization, and it is improving the efficiency of overall organization. So I think in coming session we'll test this user interface technology of IBP in the tool. So Vaibhav, do you feel your access will be fixed in a day or two?
I hope so. That I've followed up with our the support team since I've been following since yesterday. Hopefully, I'll get a response today.
Okay, so far you have not been using the IBP tool in your organization, correct?
We
Vaibhav?
have been using IBP. We just have
You
a
have-
test system
Sorry, I was
and a
speaking on mute
production.
there. I have been, yeah.
Okay, so if you are using the IBP, then what access is missing?
It's only the test system access. I have access to live production. I just don't have access to the test system.
Okay. So what all things you do in the IBP tool in the current scenario?
What do we use IBP for right now?
Yeah.
Everything that we've said before, with entering in demand, for the consensus forecast,
Mhm.
seeing the dependent demand to be able to do the supply planning, looking at our inventory status on the different products, capacity, for each of the different production lines.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So most of the activities you are already doing in the IBP tool itself.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, then are you using user interfaces as well, like Excel spreadsheet, or you are directly doing everything in the tool?
We use the Excel to do everything, pretty much,
Okay.
at least for the demand and supply planners.
And then you upload that into the IBP.
All within the Excel. Yeah.
Okay. And what sort of reports do you prepare from the IBP tool and download it into the Excel?
Everything.
Okay.
We mostly use the Excel interface when we look at the demand and supply portion. Not many use the web UI. The web UI is where most of the master data comes in from. But we view everything within the Excel.
Okay. Okay. So may I ask your forecasting accuracy? What is the forecasting accuracy level? Just the average forecast accuracy number for your organization, for your product portfolio, Victoria? Do you measure the forecast accuracy?
We do, and it varies between regions and products.
So for the
I
Americas region, how much is it?
don't know off the top of my head because I don't work in the demand side. It's not
Okay.
far off. It's I would say it's
Okay.
80-90%. How's Canada?
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with Victoria on that. So 90, well, to as you know, you rightly said before, the forecast is never 100% right, but that is the target, to stay above 90%. So in my monthly demand planning process, I look at the biases, the forecast bias, what the bias is, and then drill down on, what SKUs are actually driving that bias and what's affecting the accuracy. So to stay above 90%, and then we drill down on what's causing it, and then reach the sales org to ask for why that's happening, or why the customer is not buying to forecast, or what the incident is. That's the sort of the process for me.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. Okay, so next slide is on the Excel user interface. I think we will in the subsequent sessions we will try to use it online. But in the meantime, if you get the access, you can go to the LMS and review the lab documents and try to work in the test scenario. So in the meantime, I will also fix the issues if there is any issues with my ID, and then we can get going. Okay. Okay. So next point is related to the time series based supply planning. This is only an introduction of IBP. As we go further, we'll have a deep dive sessions. So there are three main pillars for the time series based supply planning. So it's basically defined based on the time horizon of the supply planning process. So first is basically infinite supply plan without shortages. Okay. So what I would say, this is an unconstrained supply plan. Okay. So in this case, system will consider that whatever is the demand, the supplies will be 100% in line with the demand. Okay. So system will assume that in the best case scenario, whatever is the unconstrained demand, considering all the factors which are either under control or which are not in the control, system will still populate the unconstrained supply. Okay, that is the best case scenario for the infinite plan. Okay, whatever is the plan, even if the demand forecast is unrealistic, it will still consider it as a demand for the calculation purpose, and it will identify what sort of supply arrangements are required to be able to fulfill the demand. The next is finite heuristics to create priority based finite supply plan. So in this scenario, the priorities are defined, and this priority is again based on the strategic rules of the organization. The strategic rules can be based on the profitability. If there are the same demand from two different customers, okay, then which customer we need to give the priority to. So in that case, if the organization strategy is on maximizing the profitability of the organization, then system will consider by fulfilling the demand for customer A will end up in maximizing the profit, or by fulfilling the demand customer B will end up in maximizing the profit. This is based on the pricing strategy. In this case, or the customer A or B, whoever is giving the higher price for the product, he gets the supply first. So he is given the priority because the organization strategy is based on maximizing the profit. If the organization strategy is on the key customer account, okay. For example, if one customer is extremely loyal to the organization and is associated with the organization since past few decades, then the organization treats this customer as a loyal customer. So this loyal customer would have a special discounted price. Okay. So this customer we will assume as customer A, vis-a-vis another customer, which is called as customer B. He is a very recent or new customer, okay, and who's giving the higher price. Okay. So in the scenario two, the organization will get more profit by supplying the goods to customer B. But because the strategy of the organization is based on, managing the key customers account, in this case, supply priority will be given to customer A. So these strategic decisions are taken based on the strategy level identified by the organization, and these strategies are input into the IBP system, which helps IBP in making, the decisions, the right decisions in the right scenarios. The last one is basically the heuristic infinite supply plan, in which only the available supply is propagated. So the last process is such that if there are, let's say, two customer demand for 10,000 pound each, then the total customer demand is 20,000 pound, but the limited supply is only 10,000 pound. then in this case, the process of allocation comes into the picture. And again, these allocation rules are based on the strategic decisions, whether to supply to customer A or to supply to customer B. Again, it will check the checkbox of what are the rules, whether it is the profitability, whether it's the loyalty of the customer, or whether it's another rule set as XYZ. So based on the defined parameters, system will give the priority to supply to customer A, B, C, D, whatever it is. So this is how the supply planning decision making takes place based on the master data and based on the inputs that is given to the IBP tool. So any questions on this slide or related to any other slides?
Nope, not from my end. All good.
No questions.
Okay, so the planning method used for the supply planning is basically the time series based on algorithms calculated based on the product requirements to satisfy the demand. Okay, so it considers the horizon, like the window is given as to what is the level of horizon which needs to be followed, and what are the parameters for which the supply planning run needs to be determined. So all these things are basically run through the algorithms. Algorithms is a set of condition records, okay, so which are pre-fed in the tool, which are available as the functionality of the tool, and you need to just activate these algorithms. So based on the various scenario, these algorithms are automatically triggered, and it is applied on the set of data to give you the meaningful output. So there are huge number of algorithms designed, more than 20 in some organization, and some organizations also use the combination of two algorithms. So there is a possibility of applying the algorithm of for example, moving average past 6 months and seasonality. These are, for example, two different algorithms, and a combination of two can also be applied. Okay, so system will first check whether it is a seasonality product. Okay, and how system will identify the seasonality product, whether in last 12 months, if the product is bought only for a specific period. Okay, for example, let's say the umbrellas. Okay, so umbrellas are basically the product which falls under the seasonality, especially for India, because in India we have a unique season which we call as a rainy season. So only for 4 months we get the rains, and for rest of the 8 months we do not get rains at all. So umbrella is for India, it is a seasonal product. The demand for umbrella will only start from the month of June till the month of September. But for the other countries like United States or for the European countries, as rain can trigger anytime, during any of the season, this product may not be a seasonal product. So the requirements may be coming on and off based on the requirement. This is how system identifies which sort of product should follow which strategy. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. So next are the few examples of the algorithms. Okay, for example, time series based supply planning heuristics is one algorithm. Time series based supply planning finite heuristics then propagation heuristics, and uh, time series based supply planning optimizer. So these are four heuristics or the algorithms which are set in the part of supply planning. But within these four algorithms, you can have many other sub algorithms set based on your specific product requirement. So you can have as many algorithms as you want based on your product functionality, the product demand cycles and the product variability. So with this, we are to the end of the first module, that is module 1, that is introduction to supply planning. So any specific questions, any specific doubts you have related to this? Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? Is the speed of presentation okay? So we start off with the next module, okay, which is also another part of IBP overview, part A. So again, a disclaimer, I'm just putting it forward. You can just go through it. Okay, the next slide is for the agenda. So in this session, we'll be covering the IBP for inventory, the inventory dilemma, developing the intelligent inventory policy, some of the response and supply planning, order level planning. So most of the things in this session are covered related to the supply planning and inventory management. Then we'll also be touching upon the supply planning, supply chain control tower, uh, from plan to execution, how the manufacturing process works from planning to executions, and the available navigation scenarios and solution directions. So these are the broad level topics which will be covered in this session. So moving on to the next slide of impact of the global disruption, like you must have faced the similar issue in the COVID, wherein the entire global supply chain organization was badly impacted, and there was a huge supply chain disruption, especially in the transportation and the shipment industries, wherein all the consignments were held back. So there was an issue of the containers availability. There was an issue of the vessels availability, and because of COVID restriction, the entire global supply chain was very badly disrupted. So this can happen anytime, during the year. There is a lot of uncertainty in the supply of critical materials. Like for example, sometimes there are shortages of crude oil. Sometimes the crude oil prices goes extremely high, and there is always an acute shortage and price increase in such scenarios. Also during the COVID time, the aerospace industry was heavily impacted because all the travel restrictions were imposed, so nobody was allowed to travel. So entire organizations and various industries had faced a lot of issues during the COVID time. So in reality, in even in the normal circumstances, there are a lot of uncertainty in supply of critical material, and even if there is a shortage of one material, it can stop, the production of your factory. So it's extremely important to do the supply planning or the material requirement planning extremely critically, so that the materials are made available as per the demand, and the supply chain disruption is controlled to the large extent. Over and above, the supply uncertainty, which is always there in the current dynamic markets, we also have a lot of volatility in the demand for goods and services. So most of the goods and services are dependent on many other external factors which are beyond our control. So at any point in time, you will see that there is a huge variability in the demand. Demand is behaving sometimes in crazy manner. You anticipate the demand, even the regular products demand, but in certain months you see a big drop in the demand, or in certain months you see a huge rise in the demand. So both this situation of sudden increase or decrease in the demand is not good for the organization, as it puts or impose a lot of stress on the organization and on the supply chain functions. So the next one is what we call as a constrained capacity in the manufacturing and logistics organization. So often the organizations are always focusing on having the right capacity in place, which will meet the customer demand. But as we understood from the previous sentence that there is a lot of demand volatility. So it happens that sometimes the demand for the product wherein your manufacturing capacity is adequately installed is much lower than the demand for those products where you have less capacity. So there is always a balancing issue between demand versus your manufacturing footprint, which also puts a lot of stress on the supply chain management. Similarly, the logistics industry, the global logistics industry, I would say to a certain extent it is not fully organized, because there are a lot of things which are not very much standardized in nature. Like, for example, the availability of the vessels for the ocean shipments, the availability of the trucks or the hauliers, is also sometimes very, very volatile. Last but not the least, human risk of balancing the labor shortages and health and safety of the employee. To give you the best example of human shortages, during the COVID time, a lot of laborers and a lot of human resource team have migrated to their home countries or their hometown, which has resulted in acute shortage in many industries. So on one side, there was a huge restrictions on the traveling, but on the other side, the people were making all the efforts to go back to their home countries or home cities, away from their work. So this has resulted in a lot of shortages in the labor, a lot of shortages in the logistics industries related to truck driver, so on and so forth. So overall, the global supply chain was entirely disrupted, especially during the COVID time, and even with any of the natural calamity, the global supply chain gets disrupted. So the best way to react to this is to have the flexibility in each of these work streams. For example, if you have your flexible supply planning process, then you can react to the uncertainty in the supply with much better, with much better solutions. For example, when I say flexibility in supply planning, what does it actually mean? What it means is basically for a product, if you have multiple suppliers, okay, then at any point in time you have options to buy the same material from different suppliers or different vendors. So organization needs to always work on alternate supplier development program. So this is a continuous process. So every organization needs to work on developing the alternate vendors so that on one side they have the flexibility of buying the material from ABC vendor, and on the other side, they have all they are in a better position to put pressure on the vendors for procurement of the material with respect to giving the best price. So similarly, for the demand volatility, you have to be extremely flexible with your manufacturing footprints and with your supply chain organization so that you can, support the flexibility in the supply to meet the volatility in the demand. So in a nutshell, basically, you have to have a best flexible operations model in place, which will react to any uncertainty in the demand, uncertainty in the supply, or any uncertainty across the organization to provide, best solution. Last but not the least, you see the intensifying the bullwhip effect. So do you know what is called bullwhip effect?
No, I don't.
Victoria, have you heard the word called bullwhip?
Yes, I have.
So what does it mean to you?
Almost when you start to see demand coming up and supply reacts and has too much supply for the demand or vice versa, not enough supply for the demand, so reacting too early.
Yeah. Okay. You're correct. So basically, in a very simple term, bullwhip means an impact of a small thing to a large extent. Okay. So just to give you an example, in the practical scenario, what happens is, let's take again an example of product A, which has a very high demand. Okay, let's say again 10,000 pounds of demand for a month, but the supply is very much under constraint. Okay, so the supply is only possible for 2,000 pounds in a month. So there is always a shortage of 8,000 pounds in a month for a product A. So now this product A is shipped from a manufacturer to a distributor, and from a distributor, let's say, to a retail shop. And let's say, the general people will go to the retail shop and buy this product, okay, which has a very high demand. So now over the period of time, because there is a short supply in month one, there are almost, let's say, 100 different customers who got impacted. So they always visit the retail shop and they ask for the product, and this product is not available in the shop. So what they do is, in a very short span of time, all this information is spread in the market, and these 100 customers also try in different shops for this product. Okay, so from shop number A, they went and they found that they didn't buy the product, they could not get the product on time, so they went to shop B and they asked for the demand for the same product in shop B. There was no supply also in shop B, so they went to shop C and they inquired for the product in shop C. So now the shopkeeper for shop A, shop B, and shop C, they are basically recording this as a demand. Okay, so for example, customer number one went to shop A, shopkeeper has recorded the requirement for customer one. Same customer went to shop B, So he has also recorded, the requirement for this customer, and subsequently the customer, the shopkeeper 3 has also recorded. Now the requirement is still one, but it is recorded by 3 people. So these 3 retail shopkeeper will go back to the distributor and they will place their demand and tell them that, guy, I have one customer who has visited me. I could not fulfill his demand. So distributor will take it as one request of the product. Similarly, shop number 2 will call the distributor and tell him. So he will put the demand. Similarly, shop number 3. So this has a cumulative effect that a product demand is still at 10,000 pounds, but because 3 customers have inquired at 3 different places, and this demand is cascaded to the next level, the actual requirement that the distributor got is 30,000 pounds. Now distributor go back to the manufacturer and he tells him that, guys, my demand was 10,000, but because you are not supplying it, now the demand is increased in the market and it's 30,000. So the actual demand in the market is always 10,000, but now because of this scenario, it has become 30,000. So this particular scenario is called as a bullwhip effect. So bullwhip effect is basically a bigger impact of a smaller problem in a nutshell. So what manufacturer does is, they get pressurized because the demand is high. So management puts a lot of pressure on the manufacturing team, the supply chain team, and tell them, guys, you go left, right, center, and make sure that these products are delivered. So now, because they have received the order for 30,000 pounds, they will produce 30,000 pounds maybe a month later and ship it to the distributor. And distributor will again ship 10,000 each to the three retail shops as we discussed. So now when customer goes to the retail shop, he gets his requirement fulfilled from retail shop 1. So eventually he does not go to retail shop 2 and retail shop 3. So these 2 retail shops, in short, they are carrying huge inventory. So in the subsequent month, the demand for this product drops dramatically. So this kind of scenario is called bullwhip effect. So what happens is, the same demand, because it is asked from multiple sources, the actual impact is so high that it inflates the demand, exponentially, but this is not a real demand. So this happens mainly when there is a global disruption of the supply, and this also increases the price dramatically, because the basic economics is, when the demand is high and the supply is low, there is huge pressure on the pricing. There is huge pressure on the supply, and the product price increases. So this is how the impact of global disruption on any manufacturing organization. So are you guys with me related to bullwhip effect? Did you understand how it actually operates?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the reason, when the demand planner is discussing with the commercial team, especially for the material which is in constraint, is in supply constraint, they have to challenge the sales guy, in a healthy manner, to ensure that the demand that they are projecting is unconstrained but realistic. So, for example, in this case, sales team should go to the next level and try to identify, where are the sources of this demand generation. So if he goes 2 steps forward and check with the retail shops, they will get some kind of information that, there is a possibility that the same customer is inquiring in different shops for the same product, which is creating a falsifying demand. So that's extremely important to identify, whether the demand is realistic or not, because eventually the supply chain organization is impacted with such kind of falsifying demand. Okay, so now we move on to the next topic, which is basically supply chain from design to operate. Okay. So what does it mean? Basically, in the manufacturing cycle, we have various steps which we call as design to operate. So designing is the phase wherein the products are designed from the grassroots level. Okay, so this is the stage when the product is formed. The customer gives his requirement. The product blueprint is prepared. The bill of material is prepared. The specifications are finalized, and at the design stage, the product is finalized with the customer. Then the next stage is the plan stage. The plan stage is the stage wherein we identify what exactly are the resource requirement to produce this product, and the planning is done. The next level is, of course, the manufacturing level. So we need to have the manufacturing footprint, either in-house manufacturing or the manufacturing at the third-party subcontracting manufacturer, or even buying out the product from the vendor. So these are a part of the sourcing strategy for any organization. So once the product is available and there is a demand from the customer, the delivery comes into picture. So manufacturer or the supplier has to ensure that the product is delivered in safe manner, in good condition, and on time to the customer. And the last one is basically operate to ensure that the critical assets are available to service the customer. So basically, the customer service is extremely important, because at the end of the cycle, your objective is to satisfy the customer with supplying him the product on time and in full quantity to meet the 100% service level. So these are the various cycles of a supply chain, resilient supply chain. Resilient is basically the meaning of resilience is nothing but the ability to withstand diversity, to work on the problems and bounce back with the solutions if there is any issues in the process. So supply chain organization has to be extremely alert and agile. They have to always anticipate the problems ahead of time, so that the constraints are identified well within the time, and the solutions are obtained on. So any specific doubt or questions related to this slide?
No questions from me.
Okay,
Nothing.
anything from you? Okay. Okay, now in the similar process, this is the breakdown of the earlier process into 4 categories, like design, plan, procure, and manufacture. So in the design phase, as I mentioned, receive the customer feedback, create the product design, and finalize the product specification, and identify this is how the product is required by the customer. Okay, so this happens at the design phase. So once the product is standardized, okay, there are 2 ways. One is a specialized product only prepared for a specific customers, and this product is designed based on customer specification, and this specification are unique to the customer. So product A cannot be supplied to any customers, within the market. So it's a specific requirement for which customer will pay a special price. So this product design is, patented by a specific customer, and it cannot be shared with any other customer. Similarly, there are certain products which are standard in nature. For example, let's say a hammer. A hammer is a hammer which is used by almost all the carpenters. So irrespective of the design of the product, there may be little bit difference in the design, but still it will meet the purpose of the carpenter. So this is called as a standard product. So once the standard product is designed, this product is manufactured at a mass level, and it's most of the time it is made to stocks. Okay, wherein a specific design product for a specific customer, this is always made to order. The production of this or the procurement of this starts only upon receipt of the customer order. The next phase is plan. This is the cycle when planning teams comes into picture. So they plan for the demand, they plan for the supply, and they create the master production schedule. So a master production schedule is basically a monthly schedule for most of the organization, wherein they create a master production plan for a month. And in the best case scenario, this production plan is frozen. So once this is finalized, they are very reluctant to make changes because all the manufacturing resources, all the procurement, everything is already planned. So they are very reluctant to make changes because any changes in the MPS, that is master production schedule, will lead to the loss of efficiency of the manufacturing organization. The next one is procure. So there are two: either the procure the components to build the sub assemblies, okay, or procurement of the raw materials to produce the finished goods. Or in some cases, some customers, some manufacturers are directly procuring the finished good from a different third-party vendor. So these products are already designed with a third-party manufacturer, and they will get it produced. So the next stage is manufacture. Okay, so manufacture is actually the execution of a production plan. Okay, whatever is released, and if all the material is in place, then as per the plan, the manufacturing process starts, or the sub-assembly process starts, and the products are produced. And once the products are produced, they are shipped into the warehouse, and from there it is distributed to the customer on time. So in a nutshell, this is how the design to operate process works for any organization. So any doubts now with this?
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. Similarly, design to operate end-to-end business process flow. So it's basically talks about receiving the customer sales order, then producing the goods, then delivering the goods as per the customer requirement, and operating, like for example, receive assets, master data, onboard assets, and then so basically this is the cycle of design to operate for a different industries, which has some specialized processes in place. But in a nutshell, the design to operate process starts from design level, then plan level, then produce, deliver, and then finally, ship the goods to the customer.
Thank you for attending the session. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Also, feel free to ask your questions in the comment section below, and we will reply to them at the earliest.